All right, good morning again, especially to those who are just joining us. Morning at NTV has been on for the very last 1.5 hours, and we are still rolling. If you're just joining us, welcome on board. It's glad, and or rather, it's good to have all hands on deck. Time now for the Take Note, and we are looking at an overview of the Sustainable Development Goals, policies, as well as strategies. Now, when people say Sustainable Development Goals, many young people out there might struggle to come to terms with exactly what that is. There are those who are even coming to terms with the fact that there was something about Millennium Development Goals and there was a transition. Today, or this morning, I have two very amazing individuals who are going to be taking us through what it means to you, especially the young persons out there, when it comes to the mention and the rollout of Sustainable Development Goals. I asked before we came on air, why is this an issue and what is the direct influence for the young persons? And one of the guests said it cuts across the entire 17 goals as stated by the United Nations. Interesting. Help me. Of course, welcome Linda Saba, a program manager, United Nations Association of Uganda. Wow, United Nations Association of Uganda.
Thank you.
I'll be waiting to know exactly what that is. And we also have Onesmus Kansime. You are a national senior officer, knowledge management at the SDG Secretariat in the Office of the Prime Minister. Let me first leave the official from the OPM. He will be talking to us very shortly. The United Nations Association of Uganda. What is this?
Thank you very much. My name is Asava Linda, and just like the presenter said, I am from the United Nations Association of Uganda. So the United Nations Association of Uganda, it's an organization that works to bring the young people closer to the UN. Like we all know, the UN works directly with governments, ministries, departments. So me and you will not claim to be members of the UN because we're not member states.
We're not member states.
Yes, for you to be a member of the UN, you need to be a state, a republic.
That's right.
So the UN Association, it brings you closer to this big elephant called the UN, so that you're able to make impact, to contribute. For example, right now what is running in the UN is the Sustainable Development Goals. Do you know that me and you are direct contributors to realizing the Sustainable Development Goals? Yeah. And it is in the day-to-day things that we do. For example, when you go for lunch or when you go for breakfast, can you put what you can finish from your plate, or you're putting and throwing away? And when you throw it away, you're not contributing to SDG 2, which is zero hunger. Can you put what you can finish? And then if you can't finish it, can you recycle it into something that is better? Yeah. So what the UN Association does is to ensure that the young people, Uganda has over 70% of its population as young people, one of the youngest populations. So can we as young people be able to make a meaningful contribution to realizing this agenda, because it is for us, and there is nothing for us without us.
All right. And what is the vehicle that is driving this latest push to be able to ensure that the young persons understand fully what the United Nations is up to, especially with regard to the SDGs? Something about SDGs month?
There's actually the SDGs have been running, I think, since 2015. But yes, there's the SDG month that is September usually, and this month is not like it's the only month when SDGs are implemented. No, it is the month that helps shine the light on the different works that have been done by the member states. And this September, there's been, in order to shine more light, there's been work that has been going on that is under the Summit for the Future. So there have been activities, and in line with that, there's been Summit for the Future that has been, more of civil society, young people and government, but then there've also been the Action Days, the Summit for the Future Action Days. These days came before the actual Summit for the Future, and these were mainly young people focused. So many young people were in New York, and they were, trying to show that issues that they need to be worked on, they were discussing and they were showing what they have done on ground. So yes, there is a lot of work that is going on even in Uganda about the Sustainable Development Goals, but then this month of September just helps shine more light on what has been done. Okay,
I'm glad to interface with a very young person from the Office of the Prime Minister. The perception most of the time when we hear OPM, it's for big people and older persons. It's always very, very heartwarming that the young persons are at the heart of matters when it comes to what the government is up to. In terms of ongoing commitments, in as far as SDGs are concerned as a country, could you take us through where we are and whether we are actually on track?
Oh, thank you so much. The implementation of the SDGs is work in progress. We are on track. Since 2015 as a country, we have made progress in some or most of the Sustainable Development Goals. And according to the UN report on sustainable development, we are at 55.5% towards the achievement of the SDGs. Wow. And this, of course, is above our achievement of the MDGs, which was at 33.8%. As a country, we have made commitments to achieve the SDGs, and these I may want to call the accelerator actions. And one of those is the parish development model, which is meant to pull 39% of households into the money economy and the informal economy, and other initiatives. We have the ICT, because now the government is prioritizing the ICT as one of the accelerator actions or sectors towards the achievement of the SDGs. And we could look at that from the development and adoption of the digital transformation roadmap of 2023-2027, and to promote the digital economy, to promote data-driven decision-making, and also socio-economic transformation. The other commitment as a nation that we are making is services, to accelerate service delivery, because the SDGs can only be implemented through localization of those services that we are talking about. Education, health, water, access to renewable and clean energy, and also having the infrastructure in place that facilitates the provision of services. And also, as a country, we are looking at manufacturing and production, because when you look at the reasons why the developing countries are still low on their GDP, is largely because of importation. The manufacturing and industrialization is meant to help us have an export-led growth. For example, when we talk about the mineral industry, we need to add value. When we talk about the agricultural sector, we also need to add value so that we can expand the product of the X minus M. We have more exports out, we have less imports, and then we are growing our GDP. The other that we are looking at as a nation is the commitment on climate action. Climate action supports one of the pillars of sustainable development. And we cannot achieve the other sustainable development goals when the environment that we operate in is spoiled, is destroyed, when we have less and less forest cover, less and less cover of the wetlands, and drying water bodies. So we have to protect our climate. And the green development strategy is one of those that is going to lead us there. That as we pursue economic growth, we should also do that with a perspective or with a practice that protects our environment. And the number of strategies we have put in place to achieve these accelerators to sustainable development. We look at coordination. We are coordinating with different stakeholders,
including the United Nations Association of Uganda.
The development partners. All MDAs and local governments are involved. We also look at our alignment. The NDP3 is 95% aligned to the SDGs, and so with the NDP4, actually up to a tune of 100%. That speaks to the policy cohesion of Ugandan policies and planning to the sustainable development. The other is making sure the citizens are involved. We are calling for individual action. We talk about environmental protection. We cannot do that alone as the government. The individuals, the citizens, must be meaningfully involved. We are localizing. The heart of service delivery is at the local government. So we are taking this message of sustainable development, we are taking these practices of sustainability to the lower local government, not only at the district, but also to the parish level. To the parish level. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. That is a very wonderful overview. Shortly, I'll require to understand exactly how the effective involvement of the young persons is happening, because many times localization of issues is more about reception on their part and never a moment where they are actually making the key and critical decisions. But allow me return to Ms. Linda Asaba on Agenda 2030 as part of the resolutions from the UN General Assembly. Just take me through exactly how that is rolling out and what exactly this 2030 agenda is.
So thank you very much. Agenda 2030 is another name for the Sustainable Development Goals. Yes, it's like, you know, the way you call Chris.
Interesting there.
Yes.
Wow.
So it is.
In other words, after 2030,
yeah,
all these goals must be met.
Yes, that is the goal. So that we are able to realize at least 100% of them. But just like Onesmus has told you, we are already 55%.
55.
Almost there. But then we have less than 6 years to go. Yeah. Yes. The clock is ticking. It won't wait for anyone. Yeah. Yes, there were several setbacks from, you know, the COVID-19 period, but I think we're trying to catch up. Onesmus will confirm on that. But then how this, I'll take this back to the young people. Yeah. How are they, you know, are they just recipients or they're actually in it? There are two coordinations. Onesmus talked about coordination, and there's one that coordinates civil society, and that is under the NGO Forum, and that brings together all players, all civil society organizations that are making contribution to the Sustainable Development Goal, and this is under the core reference group. And then there is the Youth Coalition of Sustainable Development, and that is still hosted by the Office of the Prime Minister, and this brings together young people, all young people that, you know, are working towards making a contribution to the realization of the SDGs. So this coordination helps young people to have more practical input in the realization of SDGs. So you have an entry into the works that, you know, Onesmus was talking about. You're more organized. So it's more of not, you know, being a recipient of what has already been planned, but being part of the planning. And, you know, there is this talk of you need to have youth at the table. And not, you know, just receiving what is
in the room.
In the room, exactly. Yeah. So now through this coordination that, you know, the OPM and the SDG Secretariat have done, it helps young people to be on the table. And someone was saying, if there's space at the table, you'd rather grab a chair and make sure you actually sit on the table. And I would like to thank the young people in Uganda and, you know, in East Africa. They've really taken this opportunity and they're doing great work. You need to get out there and see them. I'll just draw light to one of the activities that we're doing under the UN Association of Uganda, and that is the African United Nations Youth Delegate Program. This is focused on ensuring meaningful youth engagement.
Meaningful youth engagement.
Yes. Okay. And we're looking at, do we understand policies? Can we look, for example, if Onesmus and team have come up with a policy, are we able to digest it as young people? So these are skills that we try to give to these young people. And this is not happening only in Uganda. It is actually happening in 6 East African countries. And these young people are taken through a series of documents. For example, looking at the youth policy, looking at the Pact for the Future. The Pact for the Future had 5 revisions, and these young people were part of the team that, you know, were reviewing and giving input to see that the Pact is where it is now, as it was passed. Okay. Yeah, so it's having them appreciate, other than, you know, running on the streets and maybe demonstrating. Can you come and sit with these people and be like, no, instead of X, can we put Y? And then you defend why you need to put the Y. So that is a skill that you're trying to give the young people.
All right. I think that well drives into the question I wanted to understand from you. Do we have country level benchmarks that have been, or rather that are quantifiable, that we can look at and understand that here we are this is how the young have been co-opted into, especially when it comes to, especially those, I don't know which particular goal is directly to the young ones. Is it 13? About well-being and child, something like that. There are 17 and sometimes they are a whole lot. I remember I was, the last time I had to capture all 17 aspects of an issue was in Senior 6, where you have to put all the 19 points before you begin writing. But I just want to understand, what are the country level benchmarks that we are dealing with in terms of how we're moving on meeting this 2030 agenda?
Thank you so much. So, as a country, before I even go to the benchmarks, is that we have done 3 national voluntary reviews on SDGs. We assess as a nation our progress voluntarily on implementation and acceleration, the delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals. And these voluntary national review reports, the recent one is the 3rd, which was this year, presented at the high-level political forum, and speaks much into the progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. And it also has specific reports on the young people from the input that they made to the same report. As a country, we have done a number of initiatives. And of course, this is not to say we are 100% there, but these show a green light towards our intentions to uplift all young people from poverty to the money economy, to a nation where all young people are involved in decision making and the governance frameworks. So when you look at each goal, for example, on goal number 1, and you look at the parish development model, where a specific lot or proportion was allocated to the young people to ensure that they are effectively involved in the money economy, in production, in value addition, and also be at the forefront of innovation and the export-led growth. When you look at the other aspect that affects young people, so much, that is the aspect of health, and that's goal number 3. A lot of
that one was one.
Yes,
health and well-being, that was confusing me.
Yes, a lot of maternal, adolescent, and child health care programs are in place. There is a specialized approach to reduce the prevalence of HIV and AIDS amongst young people. We are also looking at mental health programs for young people, and there is tangible progress in that area of health and well-being. When you look at the reduced maternal mortality rate, the reduced neonatal mortality rate, the infant and under 5 mortality rate reducing, that still speaks to the improvements that we are making. And of course, the young people also benefit from these improvements. You go again on human capital development, look at goal number 5, where most goal number 4, quality education, where most young people, of course, when we are looking at sustainability, when we are looking at innovation, when we are looking at a sustainable job and labor market, education, quality education that skills the young people is very important. We have looked at the presidential skilling initiatives for the boy child and the girl child for the young people, and these are geared towards ensuring that the young people are well skilled and are competitive, not only for the national job markets, but also globally. When you look at the revision for the curriculum, that also is geared towards skilling the young people. And when we talk about education, we are not only looking at the enrollment. We are not only looking at completion. We are looking at lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning.
Yes, and a number of other initiatives. Every goal that you see of the 17, there is an intervention that has been taken, which is cross-cutting and also benefits the lives of young people. Look about access to affordable and clean energy. For example, right now 58% of the country has access to electricity. But of course, we are aware that when we increase this to at least 90% or 80%, then we have more young people involved in production, in value addition, and also we enhance their contribution to the economy. Many initiatives in it.
I'm glad you're very elaborate and enthusiastic, especially when you talk about the young people perspective. Today, the Daily Monitor has a story that is disturbing. Young and suicidal. This is on account of the National Population and Housing Census report that shows that many are choosing to, well, commit suicide as a result of inability to deal with many of the challenges that are occasioned upon them. I would like to ask Ms. Asaba, in your interventions as an NGO proper, because what I gather is that the United Nations Association of Uganda is an NGO, what is the psychosocial dividend when it comes to the multiplicity of interventions that you roll out? Before you educate them about how big the UN is, how the sittings of, for example, the United Nations General Assembly will relate to them, what is the psychosocial impetus?
You know, before actually you go to the bigger UN, because you know the UN is it's really complex. I think even the people that work in there are appreciating and understanding it takes a bit of time. So you feel pity for the young person who is, you know, 15 or 13 or 20. What we do is bring it down to the things that we understand. Like try and deduce it low. For example,
make it relatable.
When we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, we don't really just go and talk about SDG 3 because I mean, what is SDG 3?
It's flamboyant PowerPoint presentations and stuff.
Thank
like that.
you. So how do you? What we do is go down to the targets. Pick out a target. For example, if I look at target 3.6, that is looking at road safety. And that is under still good health and well-being.
That's right.
So if I look at road safety, can I reduce it better? Yes, we love, for example, we love riding, like when the speed is high, the adrenaline, you know, when you're young, it is, oh my God, I have shown him, when you bypass Onesimus, like, he can't even see my dust. So what is the advantage of that? Like, what do you pick from that as a young person? Wouldn't you want to see your tomorrow? Like, you know, bring it, you really reduce it. Because if I just come and talk about SDG 3, it's too big. There's, for example, on the one on the FCTC, that's the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, very many young people are taking up the usage of shisha. I don't know if you've noticed that.
And other substances.
And we all don't know that that is something that is banned in Uganda. You're not supposed to take up shisha. Smoking in public places is banned, but we don't, you know, like there is that gap. So it is more of getting down to these young people and educating them the dangers. You know, sometimes when I tell you don't put on that coat, you'll be like, okay, let me put on and see what happens. But if I tell you the disadvantages of, you know, that material will eat you, and then it's up to you to say, okay, I think I will not put on this coat.
Opt for something else.
So that is something that we try to do. We don't tell you don't do this, because the human being, every time we say don't, they're like, okay, let me see what will happen. And that is very common with us young people. So that has helped us to kind of like relate to the social part of it, so that, you know, they relate and they make informed decisions. Then before you know it, it is now growing from me to my neighbor, to the country, to the region, and now to the bigger UN.
All right, we are inching closer to the top of the hour. Mr. Onesimus Kansime, your word will be the final one. Not the least, because you're the official from the office of the Prime Minister.
You save the best for the last.
Wrap this up for us in terms of projections, but most importantly, how best you're going to build on to what is already being done in ensuring that the policies aligned with the greater strategies in as far as national development planning is concerned.
We commit to continuous work on alignment. We have garnered some results from the alignment of the NDP3 to the SDGs. We also hope that with further alignment and picking from the lessons learned in the implementation of the NDP3, we shall have to roll out a better NDP4 and even better implementation approaches. We are also further committed to citizen participation, because we believe that the citizens have a big role to play in the implementation of sustainable development goals through individual actions. We are also committed to localizing these SDGs. We have already translated them into 13 local languages, and we hope that with further awareness and that rekindling of the conscience of people, both individuals and also entities and organizations and institutions, we should be able to achieve the SDGs much more easily. We are also committed to increasing financing for the SDGs through domestic resource mobilization, through efficient utilization of official development assistance. We are also looking at cooperating with the private sector to ensure that we create more innovative, sustainable, and equitable financing models. And in that we have adopted what we call the Integrated National Financing Framework, that is going to help us have the financing tailored to the SDGs. Again, we are also committed to making sure that we enhance partnerships, because we are looking at the great role which partnerships play with the civil society organization. Linda is here with the young people out there. Already the Pact for the Future talks about a declaration on young generations. And the future again also speaks about us as young people, speaks about the future we shall live in. It also speaks about the future beyond us. And the question that we have to always ask ourselves every passing day is, what is my contribution as an individual? And what is my contribution as an individual, and how happy or sad will my child be if I leave to them an inhabitable planet for them to live in. Lastly, I would want to urge all viewers that it is our role, all of us, achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, whereas the biggest onus falls on government. We also have a role to play. If we are littering polythene everywhere, if I am beating up my wife, if you're a woman and you're beating up your husband, if you're a parent and you're denying the girl child their education,
even the boy child,
are an enemy of progress.
Okay.
And also, maybe just before you wind it up, this is the UN month.
This is the UN month.
Yes, and we're making 79 years. 79 years.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Onesmus Kansime, the Senior Officer, Knowledge Management at the National SDG Secretariat in the Office of the Prime Minister. And of course, many thanks to you to Linda Saba, Program Manager at the United Nations Association of Uganda. I'm inspired to create the World Bank Association of Uganda. All right.